if you've just tuned in, you're listening to Man Makes Noises Around a Kitchen that are not helpful or conducive for the thing he's trying to do. You're joining me at a very domestic time in my life, otherwise known as 7 p.m. For context, they've announced a new Ayatollah, so that should be good. And I had a Greg's for lunch. You can't really think about how much money Greg's may have taken from you. There's something about Greg's, I think the fact that it's called Greg, it makes it feel like, oh, they wouldn't screw me over. They wouldn't take years off my life, but they completely would. They don't make any of the boycott lists, do they, Greg's? But they still need to be considered like a regular company. What is the pint glass? The question of it, when we're in domestic time and Mondays, because I believe, unlike others, I believe Mondays should deserve a beer, maybe more than a Saturday actually does. Because Saturday, there's something, I think the reward system should really be when you get through the first day of a new week. Because Sunday Scaries are really just about the first day back. We're like, I'm back in the office. Oh no, all that stuff. And the rest of the week, like, I actually think week dependent, you can kind of game it out and you can kind of put a better spin on it because you're in it, right? I think being in stuff is the difference. So all of that considered, being a little tipsy, a little bit stoned on a Monday, that's more generous than a Sunday, especially if you can do your job hungover. Like, I think really it's praxis to be hungover on a working day. You can do that, and as long as you garner a reputation as a grumpy, awful person that God damn it delivers results, then you can still be that guy, and that's okay. And that's basically what Severance is about, I'm pretty sure. And also at this point, I am such a sort of solipsistic guy sometimes, and people have said that about me. In that I always think, like, it's so the smaller sides. What you also just watched for the listeners, what I just tried to do was fill up the kettle while the sink was clearly full with stuff, which is, I would describe as, if I was a poet, I would describe it as the ADHD lament, in that there was clearly something that I should be doing, but the slacker in me wanted to cut corners. So I essentially made a sort of beautiful water feature where I was pouring the water into the kettle while it was clearly pouring out of the kettle. So we actually had a net loss on kettle water. I've been a long-term, as someone with a vicious sweet tooth, I'm a long-term non-believer in the rice pudding as a concept. Conversely, I do believe in gruel as a concept, and in porridge. I mean, porridge, I would actively stand with porridge, to tell the truth. Oh my god. So, okay, this will sound, this is so like yucky core stuff I'm talking to you about, but at my job, there's free granola. Guys, there's free granola in the video game world. And I have some granola every day, and every single day, I think to myself, wow, good granola today. Just because I think they're top heavy on the fruit. They're like a little bit, they're top heavy on the fruit. You get a little more raisins, a little less crunchy brown stuff. And I think that's all it takes. I think that's like, it's a bit like when I was a kid, when I had roast dinners, I'd always try and mix and match the potatoes with the lesser vegetables. And I think when you have that, you want more potatoes to balance it out, because you want sort of grunt work potatoes to sort of carry the burden of the working week, and then also celebratory potatoes. You kind of sacrifice some roast potatoes on the side in order for the victors to get the full way. It's very much like chess, when you have the pawns being the necessary sacrifice for the queen. Except, like, you know, you don't really get to celebrate with the pieces that make it at the end of chess. Although they should look into that as a game mechanic, that you get a kind of celebratory, almost like a Wii, where it's just like everyone that survived gets to celebrate, kind of like the end of the Lord of the Rings or a Bollywood movie. That said, you don't have to play chess with the chessboard that you have. You can actually do whatever you want with the chessboard. You can make them. You can make them kiss. You can make them, into a domestic fallout. You can recreate Revolutionary Road with your chess pieces if you really want. You can turn that bishop. You could do an amazing reenactment, doll reenactment of Conclave with the chess pieces that you have left. And I do think knowing the story of Conclave enough to reenact it in doll form requires the same brain capacity as any chess games I've ever played. If you want to see what long-term marriages are, it's really watching my wife and I play chess badly at each other for 3 hours in utter silence. Not in like a negative way. We love, like, we're enjoying the game. We both want to win so bad at a game that we really only have a functional knowledge of. And that long kind of war of attrition always ends with me losing, even though before we first played, I was very much like, oh yes, I played. Everyone knows how to play chess. I learned how to play as a child. This is a child's play to me in a very literal sense. Again, not to sound like I can't have a minute's peace to myself, but usually I'm sort of watching something or listening to music or something like that while I cook, and it's nice to see that I don't technically need to be a functioning human being. I've also been working up a list of things that are full of joy, things that are full of splendor in spite of the material reality of them. So, a drunken cigarette, cooking while high, having a second coffee when you're hanging out at the cafe with friends, things like that, where it's like they are bad for you, but they are just so full of joy because the rush, the elegance, and the place of presence. Like, I don't know. There's something in me today which I just feel a lot more positive and best foot forward in spite of all the all that's going on. I don't know what it is, but I think it's because of but you can tap into this energy anytime you like. Why not? Cook all the pasta. They told me they don't make penny this big, but look at it. Look at this Rummo Penotti Regatta. You can see it through. That's a cannelloni, that is. Look at that. But yes, I'm also a big believer in oil and salt in the water. I'd also like to introduce you to one of the longest commitments of my life, which is this cooking salt. 1 packet bought from Tesco, coming up on 3 years ago, and I have not finished getting through it. Because listen, this might make me sound like some kind of snowflake or something, but the salt is simply too salty, and so its really only purpose is to work in salt and oiled water. Stop this show dead in its tracks if I can't find the key to open the window, because otherwise I'm gonna... Ooh! If I was to say the most masculine thing about me, it was that I cannot find shit. I hate sort of typical gender role stuff, but my god, every single time I cannot find it. It's so embarrassing. And then you know, I think regular people know this, but the first or second time a partner finds a thing that you can't find, it's kind of all gravy. We all forget stuff. Who amongst us is without sin? But the 8th, the 15th, that's a reputation you can't unlearn. So here's the Italian method that I've been told. Is you do 2 eggs, whole eggs, and 3. You do 2 yolks for every 1 egg. Right now we are in a situation. We got a situation where I actually don't have enough eggs for that ratio. But we're just gonna. What I've learned is that adding more yolks just makes it actually nicer and have just a better consistency in the sauce. What we're after, ladies and gentlemen, is a concept. The oil got me. The oil got me. What we're after is a concept called calcification. It just basically means it's saucier. Fans of seesaws will love the sort of back and forth of the yolk hopping back and forth there, which I got to tell you, I'm down with. I like it. It feels like a very nature finds a way kind of thing, like a sort of when you read about undersea creatures and how they develop these incredible tools for survival. I will say I've also seen man go too far to continue this sort of Jurassic Park metaphor with the use of an egg yolk. A dear friend of mine, Ed, an old roommate, once used an eggshell as an ashtray for a joint that he was passing around with me and my other roommate, Elias. It made me lose respect for him, and I did not enjoy it, and still kind of hate thinking about it now. It was kind of like a failed sort of Hobbit situation of just being like, isn't this cute? Look at me use this. And I was like, no, hate that. Don't like it at all. Ashtrays are a very worthy investment, especially if you have smoker friends. Even if you don't smoke, I think it's worth having. It's a little thing called hospitality, which this sort of faux Italian situation I've got going on. Sorry, that smoke is way too much. I'm going to have to... This will be what this really is a test of the lav mic's strength. There you go. Wasn't enough, I told you. Ooh. This is what happens when you try and sort of podcast and cook at the same time. There really should be a kind of check your speed kind of ad. I don't know if you remember, and this might age me, but I don't know if you remember there was an ad for anti-speeding where there was a girl who'd been run over, and then it went in reverse, so she puts her hands like, and it's like, don't hit me. And that was basically the ad. They should do that, but for anti-podcasting while you're doing other things. Just all anti-podcasting. It should just be like, a guy recording his take, and he's saying some absolute nonsense that you hear about it, like, girls can't even stand asking for a plastic bag, or something like that. And then, but it's not that moment though. It takes him all the way back. It's like him, gasping for breath in a plastic bag, and then it sort of rolls back, and he goes back through him, like meeting girls and talking to them about it, and then he meets the love of his life, and they settle down. They're so happy. They get married. His parents are happy for him. It's the whole 9 yards. It's the dream. He's made it. And then she goes back through his old records, through his old files. She finds this clip of him saying, "Women hate buying plastic bags." And she kills him. It's called Squarespace Gothic. Oh, look at that beautiful calcification. Another tip I find is you always want more cheese than you think you do. Oh, there was a recipe, I can't remember what it was, but you actually threw this bit at the end, the rind, like you grated all that up and you use that in the sauce, I believe. You just chuck the little bit on the end. Oh god, I wish I could remember that recipe. It was just so, like, you know, smashing a bottle on a ship to wave it off core, that I found it absolutely magnetic. We have all the cheese we need on this. So I've cut off the last bit. And for your entertainment, much like the cinnamon challenge that came before you, I'm going to eat it all in one go. All right. Gucci. Gucci, Gucci, Gucci. The reason that we have time for monkey around and moonshines at this point is that carbonara is deceptively simple to make, and I love a recipe that's so simple to make, and it's just about kind of carving out, making stuff nicer. I like cooking and I try and get better at it, but I would be lying if I didn't say I've slacked off a little bit recently. And when you focus your attentions on making pastas better, I believe there's a sort of veneer that you know stuff about chemistry or kitchenware or whatever, even though it's really just fine-tuning those other bits. Like baking, for example, I'm so bad at baking. I cannot do it. Like, I feel like such a Luddite. I really just need a sort of set of scales or, you know, something like that. I need to frankly embrace more technology generally, and scales would be the place to start. But the fact that you can get the measurements so wrong, I got into this real swing of, okay, so I was living with my in-laws for about 3 months, I think maybe 2 months, might have been, but it can't have been more than 3 months. And they're American, and they had these huge backlog of brownie mix, these like tonk brownie mixes, and I had been sort of cooking to earn my keep because, you know, they were putting us up for free. So I just got in this habit of making these brownie mixes. So I was like, well, we've got all of these, let's make them. It takes about 2 seconds. And that went on for a while until I was like, let me try and branch out and make these peanut butter brownie mixes. I tried to mix into the thing. I think it was the first time, I made the actual chocolate powder. I had the chocolate powder separately and I added it to stuff, and it was all like originals. It was like cocoa powder rather than the actual mix. So it was a huge day for yours truly to flap my wings and see if I could fly. But what I had done unknowingly was bought salted butter rather than unsalted butter, and also put peanut butter in there because I thought that would be a fun thing. It was monstrous. It was like an old Doctor Who villain, the way it had these 2 heads, and it was like the brownie mix might as well have said like, kill me. So salty brownies, crash course into peanut butter. It was like the early tests, I imagine, for making Reese's Pieces. That's how I imagine they probably went. Just a dank kind of guttural creature that I made out of these sugary things. It was so bad on every level. It was so past saving that I had to, you just had to, those sorts of things, you just have to take out back and shoot them in the head, really. But they made it all the way to prime time, and my father-in-law had it, and I think it might be the hardest I've ever seen him laugh. He's a laugher, to be fair. He loves to laugh. Molto bene. It is al dente, as they say, which means the heat comes off. We grab the never quite clean sieve, and we pour out that bad boy. And I actually I'm confident enough to say we don't need the pasta water. And you pour it right back into the pan. Pour it right back into the pan. which makes it feel okay. Come on out. Which makes it feel so all-encompassing. Sometimes I'll just say a long word, even if it doesn't quite fit what I'm trying to get into. But the okay, so then you mix around the butter. The butter goes on first because you really want to have a sort of slippery base for your tonk pastas. These are sort of like, these pastas I've got are a bit like, you know when you see a strawberry that's too big and you're like, oh, you defo pump that boy up with steroids. It's kind of like that with pasta. Or like you kind of zoomed in, you were designing it on an iPhone and you went like zoom on the pasta. But that's what we're looking at. Getting a little bit in that to coat it, to keep it kind of, because that will keep, it's basically to stop the, I want to say, again, the science is not, I'm not a science guy, but I believe it's because it can join with the eggs and the cheese a little stronger than if not, and then also slightly, yeah, fuck it, end of description. The main thing is, and people who have flopped at making carbonaras in the past, like yours truly, know that the main thing is to stir it and to make sure it's evenly spread, and that the cheese can melt in a way that's suitable without cooking the eggs. Really, when you make terrible carbonara, and this is frankly caused by the egg whites, it always comes out eggy and like fried egg or fried rice, you know. But when you get the whites out of it, it doesn't do that. So we have this beautiful sauce that just coats everything, and it's literally that simple that you can add it all ahead of time, like we did with coating the coating the pasta beforehand and watching it melt. Oh, it's a beautiful kind of smelly parmesan, that kind of nutty, fruity. I don't know how they swing, but kind of thing. And then I would say you probably want the lardons to be just that crispy, but likely not that oily. A better man, maybe my future sons, would know to mop down the oh, interesting. The lardons. What you're witnessing is a podcast being hurried on by an advert for carbonara. Really, you should have been like, and we'll be right back, and the ad for food should come on. But really, what's happened is I've kind of cross-blended the sound. So it's just like, so yeah, no, Jeremy Clarkson's actually, I've watched it as if it's relevant and cool, and I think just because I've had this specific thing, oh, no, sounds tasty, yeah, drink a beer today. Foster's, good call. Oh, so I'm like, it's like a DJ mix. That's basically. And that'll be our episode. Thank you so much for listening. Have a nice evening. Bye.